There is nowhere left to hide in the bedroom. Every other space the avoidant inhabits allows for the maintenance of managed distance. In public, in social settings, in the ordinary navigation of daily life, the architecture of self-sufficiency functions with relative efficiency. The walls stay up, the interior stays private. The presentation of someone who is competent and warm and engaging while remaining fundamentally self-contained holds without significant effort. The avoidant has learned, through decades of practice, how to be present in the world without being genuinely exposed by it. They know how to give enough to satisfy the social contract without giving so much that the interior becomes visible. They know how to be warm without being known, how to be close without being reached, how to occupy the same space as other people without the occupying producing genuine vulnerability. The bedroom dismantles all of this, not dramatically, not through any single moment of confrontation, but through the specific and unavoidable intimacy of the space itself. The bedroom is where the body is present without the social armor that daily life provides. It is where two people are closest in the most literal, physical sense, where the distance that the avoidant carefully maintains in every other context becomes structurally impossible to maintain in the same way. And it is where the avoidant's interior, the wound, the fear, the genuine feeling that the management protocol was built to keep private, surfaces in ways they cannot always intercept before it becomes visible. What happens in that space reveals more about the avoidant than years of conversation might. Not because the bedroom is a test or a trap, but because genuine physical intimacy requires a quality of presence that the avoidance management tools were not specifically designed to handle. The management protocol is cognitive, operates through narrative and distancing strategies and the careful calibration of how much to give and when to create space. The bedroom asks for something more immediate than cognition, more embodied, more genuinely present in the specific, unmanaged, cannot be thought through in advance way that genuine physical closeness always requires, and in that asking the avoidant gets exposed. What the avoidant brings into the bedroom. The avoidant does not enter intimate physical space without bringing their entire attachment history with them. This is not a choice, is not something that can be left at the door through sufficient intention or sufficient self-awareness. The nervous system does not receive instructions from the conscious mind in those moments. It operates from its own older, more established programming, the programming that was written before language, before the capacity for reflection, before any of the sophisticated management tools that the adult avoidant has developed to navigate their interior. What that programming contains is the specific, embodied, stored-in-the-body memory of what closeness has historically meant. Not closeness in the abstract, closeness in the felt, physical, someone is genuinely near sense. And for the avoidant, whose earliest experiences of genuine closeness were frequently accompanied by the specific pain of emotional unavailability, the body carries an association that cognitive understanding cannot simply override. Closeness feels like exposure. Exposure feels like risk. Risk feels like the specific, anticipatory discomfort of someone who has learned, before they could name the learning, that being genuinely close to another person produces vulnerability that does not always end well. The body knows this, carries it as a kind of cellular memory that does not require the conscious mind's participation to activate. So the avoidant brings all of this into the bedroom, brings the wound that produced the management protocol, brings the nervous system's association between closeness and risk, brings the specific, embodied, precognitive fear of genuine physical and emotional exposure that the bedroom, more than any other space, is designed to produce, and they bring something else alongside all of that. They bring the genuine desire for connection that exists in every human being regardless of attachment style, the wanting that the wound did not extinguish, only complicated, the specific longing for genuine closeness that the avoidant carries beneath the self-sufficient presentation, not always acknowledged, not always permitted to be fully felt, but present. Genuinely present. Refusing to be entirely managed away. The bedroom is where both of these things, the fear and the wanting, are most simultaneously, most inescapably present. The specific ways avoidants get exposed before anything physical happens. The exposure begins before any physical intimacy occurs. Begins in the approach to the space, in the specific quality of how the avoidant navigates the transition from the managed distance of daily life to the closer, more vulnerable territory of genuine physical intimacy. The avoidant who is genuinely attached to someone, who has claimed them in the interior, who has allowed something real to form despite every instinct of the management protocol, often becomes slightly different as that transition approaches, not dramatically. In the small, specific, visible if you know what you are looking at ways that genuine vulnerability always produces in people who are not accustomed to experiencing it. There is sometimes a quality of humor that appears in the transition. Not relaxed, natural humor, but the specific kind that is slightly more effortful than usual. That has the quality of someone filling space because the space, if left unfilled, would become too quiet and too honest. The avoidant uses humor as a social tool generally, but in the approach to genuine physical intimacy, the humor can have a slightly different edge, a quality of deflection, of keeping the moment from becoming too weighty before the weight has been adequately managed. There is sometimes a quality of deliberateness, of decisions being made consciously that in genuine, uncomplicated intimacy would simply happen without requiring decisions. The avoidant who is managing the approach to closeness is often more deliberate than the moment would seem to require, because the deliberateness is the management protocol attempting to operate in territory where the management protocol is less effective than it is elsewhere. There is sometimes a specific quality of checking, not checking in with you about what you need, that is something else. The internal checking that is about their own interior, the avoidant monitoring their own state, assessing the cost of continued approach, running the calculation that the system is always running, but that becomes more urgent as the space between two people genuinely closes. All of this is visible to someone who is paying attention, not as a condemnation, as information. As the honest, involuntary expression of a nervous system that is managing something real in territory where management is genuinely difficult. What physical intimacy exposes that nothing else does. Physical intimacy with the avoidant exposes something that conversation and daily proximity, and even the most profound emotional honesty, cannot fully expose. It exposes the gap between what the avoidant desires and what they can sustain, because the desire is real. Whatever complicates the avoidant's relationship to genuine closeness, the desire for it, the genuine, embodied, cannot be entirely managed away. Wanting of another person's presence, is real. Is the part of the avoidant that the wound did not destroy, only buried beneath the self-sufficiency that felt safer than the wanting. In physical intimacy, that desire is most immediately, most honestly present, is present in the body before the mind has had time to assess and manage it. Is present in the specific, involuntary quality of reaching that genuine physical desire produces, the reaching toward rather than away from, the movement in the direction of closeness that the avoidant system usually intercepts before it can become too visible. And simultaneously, the limitation is also most immediately, most honestly present. The specific embodied discomfort of genuine physical exposure, of being seen in the most literal sense, physically present, physically close, the body's reality unmanaged and unmediated, of having another person's genuine presence so close that the usual distance cannot be maintained without it becoming obvious and deliberate in a way that would itself be revealing. The gap between the desire and the capacity to sustain it, which in daily life can be managed through the calibration of closeness and distance, the advance and retreat that characterizes avoidant relational patterns, is in physical intimacy compressed into the immediate moment, cannot be managed through creating physical distance without that being visible, cannot be addressed through the usual tools of narrative and deflection and the management of how much to give, is simply there, the wanting and the fear, simultaneously in the most proximate, most embodied space available, the specific behaviors that reveal the avoidant's interior. The exposure that physical intimacy produces is not always dramatic. More often it is quiet, specific, showing up in the small behaviors and responses that the avoidant is not always able to intercept before they become visible. There is what happens with eye contact. Eye contact during genuine physical intimacy is among the most exposing forms of human contact available. The eyes do not maintain the managed quality that the rest of the social presentation can maintain. The eyes reveal what is actually present in the interior in a way that the face generally, and the social presentation specifically, cannot fully control. The avoidant often has a complex relationship with sustained eye contact in intimate moments. Some avoidant entirely find ways to orient differently, to be physically close while not in the specific, sustained, looking at each other quality of genuine eye contact. The avoidance is not always conscious. Is the management protocol operating at the level of the body, finding ways to reduce the exposure that sustained eye contact produces without the reduction being obvious enough to require acknowledgement? Others do the opposite, hold eye contact with an almost deliberate quality, as though the holding is something being managed rather than something happening naturally. The difference between natural, unself-conscious eye contact and the managed holding of eye contact is subtle but real, and the body knows the difference between them even when the mind cannot articulate it. There is what happens in the aftermath. The specific, revealing quality of how the avoidant navigates the space after genuine physical intimacy has occurred is one of the most consistent exposures available, because the aftermath is where the management protocol reasserts itself most visibly, where the system, having been genuinely present in the intimacy, begins the work of restoring the managed distance that the intimacy reduced. This reassertion can take many forms: the avoidant who reaches for their phone, the one who becomes suddenly practical, focused on logistics, on what needs to happen next, on the ordinary concerns of daily life, in a way that has the specific quality of someone who needs the mundane to re-establish the distance that the intimate was threatening. The one who becomes slightly more formal, slightly more boundaried in their physical presence, as though the closeness of the intimacy needs to be balanced by an equivalent withdrawal. These behaviors are not always conscious, are often the system doing what it does when the threshold has been crossed, reasserting the management that the threshold crossing required suspending. There is what happens with tenderness. Genuine tenderness, the specific, soft, unguarded quality of genuine care expressed in physical presence, is among the most exposing things available. It is involuntary in a way that desire is not always involuntary. Desire can be managed, can be expressed through the performance of physical closeness without the interior being fully present. Tenderness cannot be performed without the performance being immediately visible as performance. It either arises genuinely, from a genuine interior that is genuinely present in the moment, or it does not arise at all. When tenderness does arise in the avoidant, when the genuine, unguarded, soft quality of actual care surfaces in physical proximity, it is the interior being visible in one of its most honest forms. Is the wound being present alongside the warmth that the wound has always coexisted with, however privately? Is the genuine person who exists beneath the self-sufficient presentation being, in that moment, simply present, and the avoidant knows when this has happened, can feel it as the specific, slightly disorienting quality of having been more genuinely present than they intended. Sometimes this knowledge produces retreat, the tenderness is allowed to surface, and then the management protocol engages and the retreat begins. Sometimes it produces something that stays, that does not immediately retreat, that lingers as the most honest expression of what is actually present in the avoidant's interior. What avoidants reveal through what they cannot do. As revealing as what the avoidant does in physical intimacy is what they cannot do, the specific absences that are as informative as any presence. The avoidant who genuinely cares for someone often cannot receive tenderness as easily as they can give it. The giving of care, even physical care, can be managed, can be expressed through action, through doing things for the other person, through the competent, practical expression of caring that does not require the vulnerability of being the one who is cared for. But receiving, allowing genuine tenderness to arrive at the interior, allowing another person's care to be felt rather than acknowledged and then managed, is often more difficult. Being received is an exposure. Being cared for is an exposure. Allowing another person's genuine attention and warmth to land fully, to be felt in the body rather than processed by the mind, is among the most acute forms of vulnerability available, because it requires not giving but allowing, not managing but being present for the receiving. Not being competent but being in that moment, simply the person who is being genuinely cared for by someone who genuinely cares. The avoidant who has difficulty receiving tenderness is not indifferent to the tenderness being offered, is often profoundly affected by it. The difficulty is the specific, embodied discomfort of being on the receiving end of something that the wound made genuinely risky. The wound taught allowing yourself to need something from someone specific, to be genuinely dependent on their warmth for the quality of a moment, leads to pain when that warmth is withdrawn. And the body, which remembers this lesson more reliably than the mind, produces the discomfort of receiving as a protection against the pain of loss. This means the avoidant often deflects tenderness. Not coldly, often with warmth, often with humor, often with a quality of engagement that looks like full presence but has redirected the tenderness into a different register before it could fully land. The deflection is gentle, is not a rejection of the person or of the care, is the management protocol operating in the space where the wound is most directly activated. The avoidant who cannot sustain prolonged physical closeness in the aftermath of intimacy, who needs to move, to create some physical distance, to reestablish a bodily autonomy that the intimacy temporarily suspended, is revealing something real about what the intimacy asked of their nervous system. The movement toward distance after intimacy is the system restoring what was temporarily suspended, is not a verdict on the intimacy, is not evidence that the closeness was unwanted, is the specific physiological expression of a system that has been asked to sustain a quality of presence that required more than it could comfortably maintain without the restoration of some distance. What the avoidance body communicates that their words do not. The body communicates what the avoidance carefully managed verbal presentation does not. This is one of the most consistent and most honest aspects of physical intimacy. The body does not have access to the management protocol in the same way the mind does. The body responds to what is actually present rather than to what the narrative requires to be present. The avoidant who is genuinely moved by someone, who has allowed genuine attachment to form, whose interior has genuinely claimed the person they are with, has a body that communicates this before the mind can assess whether the communication is safe. The specific quality of relaxation that occurs in genuine presence with someone who is genuinely significant. The body's particular quality of ease, not the performed ease of someone who is being socially comfortable, but the genuine, unself-conscious ease of a body that is with someone it has decided is safe enough to release some of the vigilance that it maintains elsewhere. This ease is one of the most honest things available to observe, because the avoidance body maintains a specific quality of readiness, of slight vigilance, of being prepared to manage whatever is required in most relational contexts. The full release of that vigilance, the genuine relaxation that occurs when the body has decided that the person present is not a threat in the way that the wound made people threatening, is rare. And when it occurs, it is entirely visible to someone who is paying attention. The body also communicates genuine emotion in ways that the verbal presentation cannot always contain. The avoidant who experiences genuine tenderness, genuine vulnerability, genuine feeling in physical intimacy often cannot prevent that feeling from being visible in the body, even when the verbal presentation is maintaining its managed quality, the quality of touch. The specific, involuntary quality of holding someone in a way that communicates genuine care rather than the management of physical closeness. The body's particular response to genuine intimacy, the involuntary relaxing of the specific tensions that daily life and the management of the interior produce, all of this communicates what is actually present in the avoidance interior in ways that the verbal presentation cannot fully control. What you are learning in the bedroom. What you learn in physical intimacy with the avoidant is more than what you learn in any other context. Not because the bedroom is more important than other spaces. Genuine emotional connection can occur anywhere, and the intellectual and emotional intimacy that happens in conversation can be profoundly revealing. But because physical intimacy removes specific layers of the management protocol that protect the avoidance interior in other contexts, you are learning whether the avoidant can be genuinely present or whether the management protocol reasserts itself the moment genuine exposure occurs, whether the tenderness you offer is received or redirected, whether the aftermath produces genuine closeness or the specific retreat that the system requires when it has been asked to be more present than it is comfortable being. You are learning the specific quality of the avoidance desire, whether it is present and immediately managed back into something more comfortable. Whether it arrives with the specific quality of someone who wants and is simultaneously afraid of the wanting, whether it has the particular complicated texture of genuine feeling that is genuine and also threatening to the person feeling it. You are learning, most honestly, whether what is present in the intimate space is mutual. Whether the avoidant who is with you in the bedroom is genuinely there, present in the full, embodied interior as well as exterior sense, or is managing a physical closeness while maintaining the internal distance that the management protocol considers essential. That learning is important. Is the most embodied, most direct, most difficult to misread information available about where the avoidant actually is and what they are actually capable of in the specific context of genuine physical intimacy, what the exposure means for you. The bedroom exposes the avoidant. This is the honest reality of what physical intimacy does to the specific, carefully maintained architecture of avoidant self-presentation, and what the exposure reveals, however imperfectly, however complicated by the simultaneous presence of the wanting and the fear, is the truth of the interior, not the whole truth. The avoidant is never entirely exposed. The management protocol does not simply dissolve in physical intimacy, but enough of the truth surfaces to make the bedroom one of the most informative spaces available for understanding what is actually present in the person you are with. What that information means for you depends on what you do with it. Whether you use it to understand the avoidant more fully, to have more accurate information about the specific, embodied reality of what you're navigating, rather than only the cognitive and emotional portrait that the rest of the dynamic provides. Whether you use it to make more honest assessments of what is genuinely present and what is being managed. Whether you allow it to inform what you know about whether what is between you is something with genuine depth and genuine mutuality, or something that is more complicated in ways worth understanding clearly. The bedroom is where the avoidant gets exposed. That exposure is a gift in the specific sense that honest information is always a gift, however uncomfortable, however complicating, however far from the simple clarity that a less complicated dynamic might provide. The information is real, what it tells you is real. And you who have been paying attention throughout, who have been reading the specific, small, honest expressions of an interior that the management protocol cannot entirely contain, deserve to receive what the exposure provides with the full quality of accurate perception that you're capable of, not to use it against them, to understand what is actually there. To know as honestly as possible what you are in the presence of when the architecture comes down and the interior becomes, however briefly and however imperfectly, genuinely visible. That knowing is yours, is one of the most valuable things physical intimacy with an avoidant provides. And it is available to you in the specific texture of what you have observed and felt and understood in the space where the avoidant, despite everything the management protocol was built to prevent, gets genuinely and honestly exposed. The advance and retreat pattern in physical intimacy is the most compressed, most immediate version of everything the avoidant dynamic produces in every other context. Compressed because the physical space does not allow the gradual, managed calibration of distance that daily life permits. Immediate because the body responds in real time without the buffer of cognitive processing that the avoidant relies on elsewhere. What takes weeks or months to play out in the emotional register of an avoidant relationship plays out in minutes in the physical one. The same essential movement toward, then back, but with the specific embodied weight of two people whose bodies were genuinely close and are now, through the subtle but unmistakable quality of the retreat, less close without anything having been said about the change. The person on the receiving end of this pattern in physical intimacy often develops a specific kind of attunement that is worth examining honestly. Because navigating the advance and retreat in the bedroom requires a particular quality of attention, not the anxious, hypervigilant monitoring of someone who is afraid, but the specific, finely calibrated reading of another person's physical presence that develops when the environment consistently requires it. You learn to read the quality of touch. The difference between touch that is fully present and touch that is beginning to manage itself. The specific, subtle shift in the quality of physical attention that precedes the retreat, the way the body begins to reorganize before the reorganization is visible in any deliberate behavior. This attunement is not a small thing. Is the same empathic capacity that allows you to read the avoidant's emotional state with unusual accuracy in every other context, now applied to the specific, embodied, most honest available register of physical presence. And what it reads, accurately and honestly, is the real-time interior experience of someone whose desire and fear are running simultaneously. What happens when the avoidant is genuinely safe? There are moments, not always, not consistently, but genuinely present when the conditions are right, when the avoidant system does something it rarely does in intimate contexts. It relaxes, not performs relaxation, actually relaxes. The specific physiological cannot be manufactured quality of a nervous system that has, in this particular moment with this particular person in this particular configuration of closeness, found something it was not expecting to find. Safety. Not the safety of absence, the safety the avoidant usually pursues through distance and the management of how close anyone gets. The specific present two people actually hear safety of genuine physical intimacy that has not produced the catastrophe the system was braced for, where the closeness has arrived and the alarm has not fired with its usual urgency, where the interior has become visible and the visibility has not produced the pain that the wound taught was the inevitable consequence of visibility. In these moments, the avoidant in physical intimacy becomes genuinely different from the managed version that most people encounter most of the time. The quality of their presence changes. The specific tension that characterizes their usual physical self-presentation, the slight readiness, the subtle vigilance, the body's preparedness to manage whatever the situation requires, releases. Not completely, not forever, but genuinely and visibly in the specific moments when the safety is real. What you encounter in those moments is the most honest version of the avoidant available, the version beneath the self-sufficiency performance. the version that existed before the wound installed the management protocol. The version that has the specific, unguarded quality of someone who is simply, genuinely, completely present with another person without simultaneously calculating the cost of the presence. These moments are real and they are rare and they are worth recognizing for what they are. Not as evidence that the avoidant is healed or that the pattern has been resolved or that what happens in those moments will be consistently available, but as honest glimpses of the interior that the management protocol was built to protect, as the specific, irreplaceable experience of encountering the person who exists beneath the defense. When the avoidant is genuinely safe in physical intimacy, what surfaces is not just relaxation, is genuine tenderness of the specific, unmanaged kind that does not arise from performance. The quality of care that arrives in touch when the person doing the touching is not simultaneously managing the touch. The specific, soft, completely present quality of someone who is, in this moment, simply with you, not assessing the cost of being with you, not preparing the retreat that will follow, simply here. This tenderness, when it surfaces, is one of the most honest things the avoidance interior ever produces. Is the love that the refusing refuses to stop, visible, embodied, present in the most immediate and most real form available. The body expressing what the verbal presentation consistently contains and manages and prevents from reaching the outside in its full form, and you feel it. Not as a thought or an interpretation, but as a direct, embodied experience of being genuinely met by someone who is genuinely there. The specific quality of being with someone who is, in this moment, entirely present, not managing their presence, not calibrating it, not simultaneously running the assessment of what continued presence will cost, simply present. That quality of genuine presence, even in the moments when it surfaces and then retreats, is one of the things that makes the avoidant dynamic so specifically difficult to release, because you have felt it, you know it exists, you have been in its presence long enough to know that what is there in those unguarded moments is genuine and extraordinary. And the knowing makes the retreat, when it comes, as it always comes, more rather than less painful, what the avoidant's relationship to their own body reveals. The avoidant's relationship to their own body is itself revealing of the attachment wound's specific architecture, because the body is the place where the most immediate, most difficult to manage emotional experience lives. And the avoidant, whose entire adaptive strategy was built around the management of emotional experience, has often developed a specific relationship to their own body that reflects this. For many avoidants, the body has been partially enlisted in the management protocol, has been trained over time to express competence and capability and the specific, functional quality of someone who inhabits their physical existence efficiently rather than richly. The body that moves with purpose, that engages in physical activity with the specific, forward-directed quality of someone who uses the body to stay ahead of the interior rather than to inhabit it. That maintains the physical presentation of self-sufficiency with the same efficiency that the emotional and cognitive presentation does. This relationship to the body means that genuine physical intimacy, which asks the body to be present in a way that is not purposeful or efficient or forward-directed, but simply present, simply feeling, simply being with another person in the specific, unhurried, non-goal-directed way that genuine physical closeness requires, is itself a form of exposure for the avoidant. The body that has been used to moving through the world efficiently is being asked to simply be. The body that has been trained as part of the management protocol is being asked to participate in something that the management protocol was built to prevent. And this asking produces in the avoidance physical experience the specific discomfort of someone whose most fundamental adaptive tool is being, in this context, insufficient. There is also the question of what the avoidant allows themselves to feel in their own body during genuine physical intimacy, because feeling is not automatic, is not simply the passive reception of sensation. Involves an openness to the experience, a willingness to allow what is happening in the body to be fully felt rather than registered and then managed into something less acute. The avoidant who is managing physical intimacy cognitively, who is present in the body but simultaneously running the assessment of what the presence is costing, how much closer is too close, when the retreat will be necessary, is not feeling fully, is having a partial bodily experience overlaid with significant cognitive management. The sensation is present, but the full feeling of the sensation is being intercepted by the management protocol before it can be completely experienced. When that interception reduces, when the genuine safety moments occur and the management protocol relaxes, the full feeling becomes available. And the avoidant in those moments is sometimes visibly surprised by the quality of their own experience, by how much is actually present when the management stops intercepting it, by the specific, rich, genuinely felt quality of physical intimacy that full presence produces as distinct from the managed, partially experienced version that the protocol usually allows. This surprise is itself revealing, is the avoidant encountering, in their own body, evidence of how much the management protocol has been costing them, of how different the experience of genuine physical intimacy is when the interior is actually present for it rather than managing it from a slight remove. The morning after and what it reveals. If the bedroom is where the avoidant gets exposed, the morning is where the exposure is most honestly tested, because the morning after genuine physical intimacy is the first opportunity for the management protocol to fully reassert itself after the intimacy has reduced its effectiveness. Is the first ordinary daylight, life continuing as usual context in which both people are present and the specific quality of what happened between them needs to be somehow integrated into the daily reality. For the securely attached person, this integration is relatively uncomplicated. What happened happened, it was good. The goodness is present in the morning as a kind of warmth that carries into the day. The proximity that the night produced does not require significant management in the morning because proximity was not a threat that required management. For the avoidant, the morning is more complicated. The intimacy occurred, was genuine, was, in whatever measure, real. And now the daylight is here and the ordinary life is reasserting itself, and the management protocol, which was partially suspended during the intimacy, is resuming its function. What this looks like varies with the specific avoidant and the specific relationship, but there are patterns worth recognizing. The avoidant who becomes noticeably more practical in the morning, focused on what needs to happen, on the logistics of the day, on the ordinary concerns of waking life, is often using the practical as the restoration of managed distance after the intimacy's reduction of it. The practicality is real. The day does have logistics. But the specific quality of this practicality, its arrival as the primary register of the morning, rather than something that coexists with the warmth of the previous night, reveals what the morning is being used for. The avoidant who is slightly more physically boundaried in the morning, who occupies their physical space with more deliberateness, who moves through the shared space of the morning with less of the easy, unself-conscious quality that the intimacy produced, is reestablishing through physical behavior the distance that the physical intimacy suspended, not coldly. Not with the deliberate quality of someone who has decided the closeness was a mistake, with the specific, involuntary quality of a system that is reasserting its preferred configuration. The avoidant who is more verbally available in the morning, who talks more easily, who engages more openly, who seems in some ways more present in conversation than in the physical intimacy, is revealing something specific about where their comfort lives. The verbal register where the management protocol is most effective is more comfortable than the physical register where the protocol is most limited. The morning's verbal availability is, in part, the relief of being back in territory where the self-sufficiency architecture functions as designed, and there are avoidants who do something different in the morning, who stay. Who are genuinely, warmly, physically present in the morning in a way that does not retreat from what the night produced. Who allow the closeness of the intimacy to carry into the daylight hours without requiring its management or reduction. These mornings are worth recognizing for what they are, the management protocol having been, at least temporarily, insufficient to override the genuine wanting to stay. The system having been, in this particular morning, outweighed by the genuine preference for the specific quality of presence that the night produced. These mornings are among the most honest expressions of the avoidant's genuine interior available, because they are ordinary, are not the acute, alarm-suspending safety moments of the most genuine intimacy, are the daylight, ordinary, life-continuing hours where the management protocol usually reasserts itself most efficiently. And the staying, the genuine, unmanaged, simply here quality of the avoidant who remains present in the morning is the most direct behavioral evidence of claiming available, what the bedroom cannot fix. The bedroom exposes, does not resolve. This distinction matters enormously and is worth stating directly because the specific, profound quality of genuine physical intimacy can produce the feeling of resolution even when nothing has actually been resolved. The feeling of genuine closeness in physical intimacy, the specific, embodied, completely present quality of the genuine safety moments, the tenderness that surfaces when the management protocol relaxes, the specific experience of being with someone whose interior is actually visible and whose body has actually released its vigilance, this feeling is real. Is one of the most genuinely meaningful experiences available in human intimate life, and it does not change the architecture, does not rewire the alarm, does not address the wound that the management protocol was built to protect, does not produce the sustained, daily, shows up in ordinary moments availability that the bedroom's honest moments suggest might be possible. The avoidant who is genuinely, completely present in the bedroom is still, in the morning and the week, in the ordinary texture of daily life, the same person with the same wound and the same management protocol, and the same alarm that fires when intimacy deepens past the threshold the system has designated as the boundary of manageable closeness. The bedroom shows you what is there. Shows you the genuine interior, the real desire, the honest tenderness, the specific quality of what is possible when the management protocol is sufficiently suspended. This is valuable, is real, is not to be dismissed. And what the bedroom cannot show you is whether what is there in those moments is available in the sustained, consistent, ordinary Tuesday form that a genuine relationship requires. Cannot show you whether the glimpses of genuine presence will become the foundation of something that can be lived in rather than only visited in the specific, precious, management protocol-reduced moments that physical intimacy produces. What happens outside the bedroom, in the ordinary hours, in the daily navigation, in the specific texture of how the avoidant is present when the bedroom's specific conditions are not reducing the management protocol's effectiveness, that is the information that answers the question the bedroom opens. The bedroom exposes the interior. The rest of life reveals whether the interior, exposed, is something the avoidant is doing anything to make more consistently available. Both sources of information are necessary, both are honest. And holding both, the genuine, precious quality of what the bedroom reveals alongside the honest assessment of what the rest of life shows, is what accurate understanding of the avoidant dynamic in its most intimate form actually requires. You have been in the bedroom, you have felt what is there. You know the specific, genuine, extraordinary quality of what surfaces when the management protocol is sufficiently reduced. That knowing is real and it is worth honoring fully. And alongside it, held with the same honest quality of attention, is the knowledge of what the ordinary hours contain, what the daily presence consists of. Whether what the bedroom exposed is being tended to, engaged with, brought into the rest of life in some genuine form, or whether it remains the private, precious, intermittently available interior of someone who has not yet found the willingness or the support to make what is there in the bedroom more consistently present everywhere else. Both things are true, both deserve to be known. And knowing both clearly and without the softening that the bedroom's genuine moments can make feel necessary, that is the most honest position available for navigating what comes next.